In this tutorial, we are going to go ahead and assign what is known as Material Ids. So Material Ids are basically a material or shader that you want to assign to a particular asset. Inside of 3ds Max, you are going to click M on your keyboard and it is going to pull up the Slate Material Editor. I like to work in the Slate Material Editor because I have a little bit more range and control and I'm just used to it. But if you're used to the Compact Material Editor, you do have that option as well. You just click the Compact Material Editor and it gives you it's a little bit more along the lines of using Maya. But of course, for this sake, I like to use the Slate Material Editor. That's just because I'm used to it. And at this point, in order to assign a material ID, you are going to just go ahead and pull out the material, and then you'll get the material number. I always recommend changing the name to that material overall. The reason why is it's a whole lot easier to work with a name than it is a number, unless you have just like a catalog number for it. That's up to you. But in this case, we're just going to name it fluorescent light. We're going to go ahead and click this little bubble off to the side and just click and drag and drop right on top of the fluorescent light. At this point, this material is now been assigned to our light, which makes it quite simple, quite quick. And of course, depending on if you want to model it inside of 3ds Max or not, you have that option. So you can just add, like, say, a bitmap. You can pick and choose whatever material that it gives you. For in this case, just for quick purposes, we'll just use bark, and then we'll just assign to diffuse color. Alright, so if you are texturing inside of 3ds Max, which we're not for the sake because we're using Substance Painter for this process, all you have to do is just go ahead and click on the little light icon and it pulls it up and just goes ahead and textures it for you. But this is not so much the case, so don't even worry about it. We're just going to go ahead and delete it and we're back to square one overall. But that is just kind of like a quick way of going about it. And of course, if you're working in transparencies or if you do need to work in two-sided, you do have that capability here by using two-sided if you wanted to assign it as a two-sided, or even face maps. And you do have different shader basic parameters here, but for the most part, that is all going to be altered and changed inside of Substance Painter for this for these tutorials. But for the most part, that is how you assign a material ID. If you do have multiple assets in here, this is where you would assign multiple material IDs. So say if we had another thing here, you would just create another material ID and just assign it to that. But if you're working with a bunch of small little assets that you're going to have assigned to each other, you can assign all those unwrapped parameters to one individual ID to save on data, which is a big thing when using that inside of the industry. But for the most part, that will wrap up assigning material IDs.